Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Devar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem. This is Berachot, Chapter 2, Halacha 2. This is a really short one. What we're going to get into now is really when you're in between the paragraphs of the Shema, it's going to talk about where these interruptions are going to be treated more leniently. So the Mishnah says what places are considered between paragraphs, and the Mishnah responds and answers and says between the first pre-Shema blessing and the second. In other words, that's before the Shema starts. And then the Mishnah continues, says between the second pre-Shema blessing and the scriptural passages that begins with the word Shema, which is, Hear, O Israel, and, which is going to be the first of the three Shema passages. And the Mishnah continues and says, between the Shema passage and the second passage of the Shema sequence, that's going to be after you've said the Shema, and that's going to begin with Vehaya im Shemoa, which basically is saying in English, it will be if you listen. And then it goes on to talk about the next one, what is going to be counting as in between the paragraphs. And the Mishnah says, between the Vehaya im Shemoa passage and the third passage of the Shema sequence, which begins with Vayomer. Vayomer there means that Hashem said. It's a very deep idea about Vayomer because everything was said in Lakona Kodesh. So the Mishnah continues and says, between the Vayomer passage and the beginning of the post-Shema blessing, which begins in the morning with Emet Ve'etziv, which means basically like true and upright. And Rabbi Yehuda says one may not interrupt between the Vayomer passage and Emet Ve'etziv. So the Gemara is going to explain why not. And this is basically laying out the structure of the Shema blessing. And what's beautiful about this, that's implicit in this, is that you can open up your prayer book today and you can see all of this that's here just as described in this Mishnah, which is very ancient. So very, very amazing that Judaism has preserved the tradition and that this is a tradition that's been handed down from the master to the student, all the way since Moshe Rabbeinu. And we can open up this Gemara that was written in the year 200, and we can open up our prayer book in this year, and we can see after 1800 years that this Gemara and this Mishnah is, and the Mishnah, by the way, is earlier than the Gemara, but that this is all preserved and this structure is still here today, and these words are still here today, and the passages are still here today. Very beautiful, beautiful element to Judaism. Judaism is so beautiful, and the more you get into it, the more you will see and experience that kind of beauty in your life. Gemara is going to be very short. It's going to clarify Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Levi says in the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda's reason for disallowing interruption between the Vayomer passage and the Emet Ve'etziv is that the Vayomer passage ends with a phrase that says, I am Hashem, your God. And it is written elsewhere, it says, but Hashem, God, is true. So that's it. That's the Gemara for chapter 2, Halacha 2. So basically what this is saying is that, in accordance with this verse, we recite the word emet, which means true or truth, immediately after Hashem, your God, to form the phrase, I am Hashem, your God, true. Basically what this is saying is that since the word emet, which is truth, is extended as a continuation of the preceding phrase, the interruption between them is not allowed because you're basically combining these. Now, I want to bring in the Rambam, who has a really great commentary on the Mishnah to help us, and you can also see more about the Rambam in his Hilchos Kriyas Shema, and you can see that in chapter 2, Halacha 17. But anyway, here's what the Rambam says about this. Rambam says this means only that the connection between the statement that says I am Hashem your God and the emet, that word of truth, is treated as the middle of a paragraph or verse and not as between paragraphs. So therefore, one is permitted at this juncture to extend a greeting on account of fear. So that's the insight by the Rambam on how this works. Now I want to point out something about what the Haredim says about this. He's saying that if the necessity to extend or return a greeting arises when one is at the end of the Vayomer passage, he should say at least the word emet and only then interrupt his recitation. Now, you can check more about this with the Or Chaim in chapter 66, Safe 5. And also the Mishnah Beur has this in Safe 28. So you can see what the technical point of the Halacha L'maisa is over there. But the deep idea, the deep takeaway here is that you can see the way the construction of the Shema and all its blessings are working both before and after, and how it's being put together. And you can see a tradition and a chain of transmission that's authentic, and that when you open up your prayer book, it's the same one that's talked about here. Have a great day.